What's up, guys? This is Alex Rome, and today we're going to talk about how to make your electronic music more powerful, or in other words, how to make powerful electronic music. And we're going to specifically look into the verse, and the verse I'm going to show you how to make, it sounds like this. Wait one sec, I have two muted sections. Here we go. And for anybody who's going to ask, this is part of the demo for the Sounds of the Future sound bank. It's the new bank that we got on alexromesound.com. But anyway, so if you break down an electronic dance song, especially looking into the parts of the song that are the most important, they would be the verse, the bridge, and the drop. So something that electronic music does really well, or something that works really well in electronic music, is that nice, chill breakdown. In house music, it's a little different when you have a verse in a house song, but in these more like future bassy, trap, just regular like new aged EDM songs where you could actually have a verse, it kind of breaks down into that little, like, it's that chiller drum beat versus the drop. So if we go to the drop here, all the drums are big, the lead's going hard, but then in a verse, what you would aim to do in a verse is to kind of make the drums really, really chill, not bigger than the drop, because if your drums in your verse sound bigger than the drop drums, then your drop's not going to sound good and your whole song is going to sound like shit, because nothing in it is satisfying, and you'll just bore your listeners and they'll move on to the next song or next artist. So before we get into this, before we break it down, just remember that in your verses, everything has to be a smaller version than what you're doing in the drop. Smaller drums, smaller leads, chiller vibe, not as much going on. So let's get into it. What are we hearing here? So we're hearing that. If I had a vocalist over this, I would send this to a vocalist so they could sing there, but since we don't have a vocalist on this track, I went ahead and I made the lead myself with a couple of sounds that are in the Sounds of the Future sound bank. So let's go ahead and solo out the drums here. So when I'm making drums for verses, you want to remember, keep it chill, keep the tone chill. So we have this. It's a very chill kick, nothing big and powerful. It's more of like an acoustic kick. I actually took inspiration directly from Ekali and Medasin's Forever for this verse. So if you go listen to that, it's actually the same exact rhythm. Nothing else really is the same at all. But then I went ahead and I layered it with this sound. So the coolest part about electronic music is just putting a weird sound. It says like ancient game metal spring, whatever. Is putting a weird sound in place of like an open hi-hat, and that works in electronic music because it's EDM. You can do whatever you want. You can use whatever sound you want. And all of these sounds that I'm using are from Splice. These are Splice sounds. Right here is one of my favorite little snaps in the world. By the way, we're at 96 beats per minute. And then we had this. A little loop. I've been using so many loops recently in place of, trying to make my own loops for hi-hat lines and shaker lines and stuff like that, just because it's quicker and it's easier to just grab a loop and flex it down to the right size. So that would be the entire drums there. if you listen to this kick, I added reverb to that kick to make it like noisier, to add more sound associated with the kick. And like if you do that, if you consistently like especially here, because we don't have a lot of layers, and we can't have a lot of layers, because if we do too many layers in the drums here, the drums in the drop are going to sound weak. It's just what happens. So what we have to do is we got to add that salt and pepper with things like reverb, and going as far as adding a little bit of reverb to the kick. But remember, since this is a since it is a low frequency sound, I'm going to be EQ'd in this reverb here to low cut that. So now, this is just a lead. I shot a couple lead rounds at this until I landed on this melody that I liked the most. The first melody I had was shitty. The second one was shitty. I think I had like, I threw like 5 melodies down before I landed on this one. And it's still not that, it's still not so much an insane melody, but I don't really like lead melodies anyway. I'd rather use a vocal. But let's go ahead and break down what you're hearing here. This is a sound, like I said, it's the KY Flash that's available in the Sounds of the Future sound bank. But to kind of break it down for you, I don't really even know what is going on here. It's the dis-dute wave with a couple modulations in the LFO section here instead of the envelope section. So we didn't use an envelope to create the pluck. We used an LFO in envelope mode. So I guess that's like what I could say about that. And then obviously we have our effects. You're hearing that echo, which is delay, and then you're hearing that nice reverb. It's a nice futuristic sound. Will work in any genre, any electronic genre really. And I believe I layered it here. Just layered it with the same sound. We threw OTT. We threw on some OTT, of course. Look at this. We got a, what, 100% depth? What the fuck? I don't remember. I don't ever do that. That's why. There's just not enough noise there. People like those bigger sounds. And honestly, OTT doesn't always make things astronomically louder. Sometimes it makes sounds just bigger, or as big as they're like supposed to be, because you don't want that weak pluck in that verse, because it would sound very unmixed if I had kept it dry like that without the OTT. So that's kind of what OTT does, is it presses down the big sound, which would be the main sound, and it makes everything around it, like the reverb and delay, it makes that all bigger. It makes the high frequencies louder too, and those two things are just recipes for loudness. In the background, we got this, my favorite sound. It's just another sound bank sound from the Sounds of the Future, but this one, I think I boosted up the reverb a little bit. I did. So here, I'll show you a little reverb trick here. And this is like great for atmospheres, as you could hear. It sounds pretty sick. So that's the original sound, but then I added a little bit of chroma. Just add a little bit more air to it. And then I went hard on the OTT, 56% depth. And what that's going to do is it's just going to push the idea a little more, because that's what OTT does, is it pushes your idea a little bit more. Now remember, guys, that I don't want you to forget that we're working on the verse here. This is not a drop. And to remind yourself that it's a verse, everything is going to be a little weaker than you would use in the drop. So the drop would be the heavy sub bass, the heavy drums. You could argue that, yeah, Audeze uses the same drums in the verses and the drop. So sorry. I'm not editing that out either. Audeze uses the same drums in the verses as the drops. yet their drops are still very satisfying. How they do that, I don't know. It's just that's what they are good at. But in the classic EDM sound, you would go lighter in the verse than you would in the drop. And that'll make your drop just sound bigger, regardless of whether or not it actually sounds big or not. If you go lighter in the verse, your drop will sound bigger. Trust me. Okay, here's a couple sick sounds. I actually love this. Is one of my favorite sounds here. Here are the exact chords. I'll leave these up so you guys can snap a picture or something. I'm not going to share this MIDI. And they sound like this. Shut up! So it's like a classic Rhodes sound, available in the pack, but it's kind of like the point of this sound is to mimic that electric piano. And so when I'm writing chords, just a little like word of advice, or I guess not like word of advice, it's just a little something. I love doing that on the top line, going at this like a note here, and then you go down, and then you go back up to the same note you started with. Or we could even probably take this and go twice. That would sound insanely sick. See, isn't that beautiful? I love that. It never gets old. Anyway, I took these same sounds here, and I was listening to the Medasin Ekali track called Forever, and I heard these square pads going on in the background, and so I actually whipped this sound up and threw it in the pack just because I heard that, and we didn't have any sounds like that in the pack. And to give you like a little idea of the workflow regarding the construction of this sound, I actually went without the LFO at first. And I was like, shit, I can't just throw that in the pack, and like, there's not enough going on here. You know, I didn't want that to be that basic of a sound in the pack, so I went ahead and just LFO'd it to give it that little, you know, rocky, rolly, ducking sound, whatever. So that was a nice little shut up. So I had the I'm just gonna turn this on silent. Maybe that'll like help everything here. There we go. That should have been silenced from the start. Anyway, yeah, I wanted to kind of layer these up together. Just to add that texture. And then we have the deeper sound. Sounds like this. It's just a couple of supersaws cut off and phasing a little bit, like with a phaser. And so all together, you get the main layers that should make up every section of a song, and that is not every section of a song, but the three main layers that will fill a song out in any full section of the song. So like the verse or the drop should consist of drums, bass, leads. And so we have those three big layers, and we make up this sound. Just like that. That is how you can help make your electronic songs more powerful, by making a nice chill verse just like that right before your upcoming drop, your big drop. So there you go, guys. I hope you took some value from this video. If you did, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel. I'll really appreciate that. And of course, leave a like on the video if I didn't already say that. Peace out, guys. Thanks for watching.